Cognition has raised over $1 billion at a $26 billion valuation. Lux Capital, General Catalyst, and 8VC led the new round. Cognition CEO Scott Wu is here to discuss the news, but also give an update on the company's AI coding agent, Devin. Not just one agent. Like, I think Caroline made a good point. Like, it's an army of agents, and we'll get to that. Start with some basics, Scott. $1 billion, big valuation. Yeah. Why'd you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, thank you so much for having me back. Look, a few different reasons. First of all, the growth that we've seen in the business has been incredible, and I think really across the board, what we're seeing is that AI is doing real work at real companies everywhere. Every company in 2026 is a software company. And so we work with, for example, all the top 5 health insurers in the United States. We're seeing folks building way more tooling for all of their care providers. They're able to cut down on price and cover more people. We're working with banks on delivering software and making sure to give their customers access to what they need, right? We're seeing this with the Treasury and NASA as well. And so a couple reasons for the raise. I think, first of all, we want to continue to grow aggressively, and this really allows us to do that. It allows us to scale our compute. It allows us to grow the team and so on. Second of all, it allows us to stay independent and to really continue on as an independent business, which is really, really important for us.
It's going well as an independent business. Like, what's interesting talking to you over, let's say, in aggregate over a period of a year, is to track growth.
Yeah.
Right? So when you first started coming on the show, like, beginning of 25, 24, the revenue run rate was a few million, with respect. Then, exactly a year ago, you're kind of on a run rate of about $37 million. Mm-hmm. Where's your revenue run rate now?
Yeah, so we're getting close to $500 million today.
Wow.
As you said, we've only been in business for about 2 years, and I think a lot of what it speaks to is just how much demand there is out there for all of this. And there's about 35 million software engineers in the world today. We want to make all of them 10 times more efficient, and then we think there is a lot more than 10 times more software to build.
There is so much demand, Scott, but there's also a pretty crowded market when it thinks of startups, and admittedly, you've been talking about how labs are sort of buying these startups, and we think about what deal Cursor's just been doing over with SpaceX. But I'm interested as to how you see the threat from the big labs in and of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. For us, it's actually the other way around. I think for us, it's being fully independent and fully neutral is actually the best way for us to be aligned with our customers. And so we work very closely with all these labs, OpenAI, Anthropic, but also Google, xAI, and so on. We have deep relationships with them. We work with them on research, and it allows us to work with our customers and provide them the best model for every different use case. And so Devin is a compound system that works with all of these different models, and because of that, we're able to be the Switzerland in the equation here.
A Switzerland that sometimes makes the most of the disruption when it comes to talent and the like. I think about what happened last year, the windsurf assets, the IP, the brand, the employees after Google took, the key CEO and leadership of that company. Will more M&A happen? Is that where some of the new funding will come into perspective?
I'm sure there will be more, and there will be different things that come up. It's for us, what we're personally most focused on is just continuing to grow the business and serve our customers as best as we can.
You said, a heavy emphasis on independence, and then you called yourselves the Switzerland of this space.
Yes.
What do you think will happen if SpaceX does acquire Cursor is the base question. But when I speak to, say, the engineering teams at NVIDIA, the reason they like Cursor was the freedom to swap in and out the underlying model, depending on what your coding objective was. I suppose that's one reason why they like Devin, right? But if Cursor becomes a part of SpaceX AI, how do you see that changing the field? Data is so critically important, right? And who you are beholden to.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, it's a great question. I think in practice, I think there are a lot of great teams working on code, including, of course, the labs themselves. I think what we see is that the ecosystem is broad enough and vibrant enough that it makes sense for there to be different players in different positions. And so there are going to continue to be first-party products from the labs themselves. But as we're kind of saying, to your point, I think having the ability to serve each of the different models and not just the ability, but also the neutrality in terms of being incentivized to just serve whatever is the best model for each case rather than a single series of models, I think is an important position in the space as well.
You would say that Devin is the first AI software engineer.
Yeah.
And we talked about the revenue run rate. Clearly that's evidence of momentum and success. But are you able to sort of give any data on how pervasive Devin is, how it has changed the structure of different engineering orgs at software companies, at other technology companies.
For sure, yeah. I mean, we're seeing this across the board, where as teams are adopting Devin and coding agents en masse, that in practice, they're able to do much more and execute much more aggressively on roadmaps.
Is this new code, or is it going back over old code bases?
It's both. And so, as you can imagine, the large majority of work is working on these existing code bases and continuing to build and add new features and so on. But even internally at Cognition, for example, more than 90% of the code that we write is written by Devin. And so, of course, we're using Devin all day when we're going and building Devin itself.
And even with that productivity, you've been scaling the amount of people you hire, Scott. Just reflect on what this means in terms of how many software engineers we're going to need. Like, this ongoing anxiety is the disruption that AI causes in all its ways and across all these industries.
Yeah, no, I think what we'll see is, of course, the job will evolve over time, and we'll see some of the skill sets change, but I think we will have far more people doing this and building software and building products, not less. And, you know, my favorite stat on this personally is today there's about 30 or 35 million software engineers in the world. Just 20, 25 years ago, at the start of the century, it was under 1 million. And that's clearly come with a massive rise in the amount of software that we've produced. And I think as we continue to make it more and more efficient, we're actually just going to produce even more software, not less.
Scott, very, very quick. What's the goal you've set the team for the balance of the year? One metric.
Yeah. Look, I think for this year, we firmly intend to cross $1 billion in revenue run rate. We want to keep going further, even beyond that. And from there, we just want to grow it to as many of the companies in the world that we can.